Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I'd like to show you how I made this card. I got this stamp set the other day and it is called Waterfront, and it's got all kinds of things, a mountain set here, which is what I'm using, and some stamps that will work like for water, some that'll work like for ground, for whatever it is you want. And it comes with a set of pine trees, and it comes with some stalks for some palm trees as well, and a little beach cabana, and a sun, some speckles, and the sentiments are every little kindness makes the world brighter, love never gives up, friend, thanks, friends make good times better, and and the hard times easier. That's kind of a cool little stamp set. Anyway, I have seen this done a bunch of times by a bunch of different people, and I'm going to show you a little bit of a different technique in using this. We're going to make it look a little bit more like it was actually watercolored. So what we need to make this card, it's really very simple. It takes a crumb cake base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. And in this case, I used a black background, and this time I'm going to use a Early Espresso background. And then I'm doing my painting or my coloring on a piece of the White Shimmer cardstock. It's a little sturdier than the even the thick Whisper White cardstock, and can handle the water relatively well. And so that's the card we're going to do most of our work on. And because this stamp set is photopolymer, I'll be doing a lot of my stamping on my Pierce mat. So colors. What I'm going to use for the sun, I'm going to use crushed curry because I like the contrast on that. And then I'm using crumb cake, and this is one of those where you use quite a few inks here to get going what we need to get going. This one is soft suede. On this one, I used some different colors, but I'm going to try using wild wasabi for the grass area. I'm using Pool Party for the water and Marina Mist for the water. And I think I also need a darker green for the pine trees here. And I think I'm going to use Tranquil Tide, and I didn't get that one down. So here's my Tranquil Tide. So those are the colors that I'm using. And the only other thing that I'm using on this is I'm using a water brush, and I'll show you how and why I'm going to do that. And the technique gives you something that looks less like a stamped image and more like a watercolored image. So I've got all of my stamps mounted here, and there are a passel of them by the time we get done with this. So let's just get started. I'm going to start with the soft suede ink, and my soft suede was inked up not long ago, so it's a little on the juicy side. So I may need to stamp off on this one to get the look I want. I'm going to grab another couple pieces of scratch paper here so we can just test that and see what we need to do. So I'm going to start with my mountain, and here's my mountain stamp mounted. This one worked perfectly well on an H block. And you can see here, in order to set up my scene, that what I was doing is setting my ground horizon here a little lower than center. And I think I'm going to continue to do that because I'm going to add some more mountains to the back of this to give the appearance of them being further away. I think that's going to be okay, actually. Okay, so I'm going to start by stamping here a little bit below center. And I'm going to bring this stamp up to the, maybe the stamped image up to the camera so you can see. These stamps have a little bit of a little cross-hatched pattern to them. And they're darker at the top than they are in the center. And I don't know how well you can see that. But when the stamp is down on the paper, and let me just grab a little piece of scrap so you can really see what I'm talking about here. I'm going to stamp this, and you can even see it a little bit better on this stamp. It's got a texture to the stamp. You see that? And I think that makes it look stamped. And so I want to avoid that. Let me see if you can't really see it. I'll try and bring this up. Maybe this will give a different look on it. But you can almost see it's almost like a cross-hatched pattern. And I really don't like that look. So I'm going to do something to kind of deal with that. All right, I'm going to leave this center a little bit lower here and bring some more of my mountains, and I'm going to build them up a little bit on this side. And then I'm going to stamp off once and get a much fainter image back here so they begin to look like some of them are further away. I'm not going to ink up, and see if I can get another one stamped out that it looks again like it's a little bit further away. And let's see. There we go. I think I like that. All right, so that's it, at least for now. On the inside of the card, I want to also do a little mountain stamping, so maybe I will do that now as long as we've got that stamp out and ready to go. I thought it would be kind of fun to put a mountain image down here on the inside of the card. Getting it all over my Pierce mat. Okay, I didn't move it over fast enough. And then I have the pine trees, and I thought I would use the Tranquil Tide ink for that, for the trees. So let me bring my Tranquil Tide out, and I will do the inside of this card, and we'll be all done. And I really wanted to get just a few trees just off to the side here. There, I think that's going to be fine. And I'll show you what happens when you use your water brush. Here, it's a barely damp water brush, but it starts to fill in and makes it look more like it was watercolored than like it was stamped. And you just be careful not to go too far outside the images that are here, and you end up getting something that looks more like it was watercolored. And in fact, I'm going to add a little bit of green here. Oh, that's from the soft suede. That won't do. From the Tranquil Tide here. And get some little darker highlights in there and fill those trees in a little bit. All right, there we go. Okay, so, and also, let me clean off this brush and I'll show you here how I'm going to make those images, even the browner images, look a little bit more colored in. So I'm drying off my brush a little bit, and I'm just going over and I don't want streaks here. So I'm going over the images, and now it's half done, so maybe you can see the difference. You can see there how this looks more like it might have been painted in, and this does look more like a stamped image. I think you can see that. And then as I go through this, all I'm doing is using a slightly circular motion so that I don't end up with big brush marks here. And I'm coloring in and moving that brown ink around a little bit. And I'm going to do that with this one in the back as well, so that it has more of a watercolored look rather than a stamped look. I can blend that in a little bit. And I don't want to go overboard on this because this is just cardstock and it doesn't handle the water very, very well. So we'll let that dry and take a look at it again in a minute. All right. So back here we have our mountains, and here I'm going to do exactly that same thing. I am going to use a little bit of water from my water brush to make these images look a little less stamped and a little bit more like they were watercolored. And so I'm going to go over all of those places and the stamp naturally kind of shades this so that it's a little bit lighter in some places and a little darker in others. And I think that's good because it makes it look a little bit more realistic, and I'll show you how to get even more of a contrast in there so that it doesn't look like it's been just painted. And you see the difference, how much richer that looks if you just go over a little bit with your water brush, and it looks now more painted than stamped. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the water, and so for that I'm going to start with the soft sky, which I don't know if I actually pulled out. Let's see. Nope, I didn't. So I'm going to start with the soft sky by squeezing down on the lid like this. You push the stamp pad into the lid, and then you can add a drop of water here and get quite a bit of the blue. I think that's going to work a lot better. Yep, there it goes. That's going to go a lot better. And I'm going to leave this spot basically open because that's where I'm going to put my sun. Okay. All right, now I'm going to take the water, which is on this larger stamp, and I'm going to ink that up in the soft sky first, and I'm going to leave a little patch right underneath the mountains that's white right now, and then we'll fill that in. I'm going to make my water off to one side a little bit. And there's the water. And I'm going to use my aqua painter here again to kind of fill that in and make it look less like a stamp. It softens the edges and it moves the color around a little bit here so that it doesn't look so EXO stamped. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to go next into the pool party. And I'm going to take the pool party, which is just a little bit darker and ink, and I'm going to take this stamp, which is just sort of a long pencil looking thing, and I'm going to stamp that right down about a ½ an inch or so from the top of where I put the blue. And you see what happens, it's a little bit darker blue, and what that does is it allows you to get a little bit darker hue, because water isn't all the same color. It changes from place to place. So now I'm going to close that up, and I'm going to use my Marina Mist, and I have another stamp in this set that is this one. And so I'm going to ink this one up in the Marina Mist, and I'm going to go on top of the blue and the pool party here. And it's a much darker color, but you'll see the minute I put some water on it and start moving it around, we can get a little bit of a different look and blend it a bit into the other water that's here. It looks fairly stark now, but it won't be in the end. And this Marina Mist is a completely different color, and I'm just going to scribble that Marina Mist down here a little bit in some of this lower part of the water to get that difference in look. Okay. So now I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to close this one up, and I'm going to use my crumb cake here and my wild wasabi. Okay, now on the wild wasabi, what I want to do is use this stamp that I was using here with the pool party before. And I want to get some notion of grass. Nope, that's brown. I'm dangerous when I've got more than one ink pad open, that's for sure. Okay, so it's a good thing I have these things labeled. All right, so I'm going to take my wild wasabi here, and I'm going to run it along the edge here of my scene so that it's between the mountain and the water. And I'm going to blend that green in to the water and blend it up into where the mountains are. And let it run off on this other edge here. And let's see, where did it go? Here. And I'm going to bring that color down just a bit. And take out the very firm lines there. All right. Now, to create the illusion of more terrain, I'm going to close this one up so I don't get it confused again. And I'm going to go to the crumb cake, and I'm going to add crumb cake along the edges here. Right in here. I'm going to add some onto this side so that it looks like there might be some ground. And I'm going to ink this up and then stamp off and put some more of that right down here and across here and right in here. And then I'm going to use my water brush to fill in some of the gaps there. So it really makes it look like this is a little bit more of a pond than, and maybe even a bit of a lake, but that there's some ground around it. And I'm going to fill this in here. And there we've got some pretty soft color going on around our water here. And I'm going to continue to use that brown in a little bit of a wash down here to the bottom. Okay. All right, now I'm going to put my trees in, and I'm going to use the Tranquil Tide here, and I'm going to use a little bit of a mask to put some trees kind of far behind those mountains there. And in order to do that, I'm going to stamp off a couple of times, and I'm going to try to stamp a little bit behind so we see a few faint trees in the distance here. And maybe some across this end as well. And all I really want to do is to have this mimic the top of that mountain. So I'm going to put a little rounded edge on this and then do a little stamp off, and maybe get a few trees back behind those mountains. And I can always use my water brush to fill those in and tie them to the top of the mountain. And again, just a very, very practically a dry brush to get that accomplished, because I don't want these to be very dark back here. There we go. And now I can do my full strength ones right down here as though they were in the foreground. And I'm going to create almost a little forest here on this one side of trees. And the fun thing about this is you can do this just about any way you want. There is nothing to say that these trees aren't forested. And in front of this scene, there it is, very pretty. All right, now I'm going to take my crushed curry, and I'm going to put this sun very low on the horizon. I'm going to take this, let me see how it's going to stamp, okay, and I'm going to put that sun as though it were right in here. Now, if you wanted this sun to be someplace else, all you have to do is cut a little circle to mask an area. Go ahead and put your sky in, and then you can pick it up and put your sun in someplace else. But I think that looks pretty good. Now, one of the things that I watched somebody do on this, and I think I'm going to add just 2 trees on this side. Right down there. Okay. And on these trees, I'm going to do what I did on the others, and that I'm going to fill them in so they're a little bit more realistic. And look a little less stamped and a little bit more like they might be watercolored. And you see we're now starting to have this scene look more alive, because it's got a few more colors in it, and it's got something that gives it a little bit of depth. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. And that's all I really wanted to achieve with this. And I'm going to fill in a couple of these places so that it doesn't look like it got left without anything. Okay. Now I'll bring this up so you can see. It does begin to look a little bit more like a watercolored scene instead of stamped images. And part of that is just the use of the water brush. Okay, so I'm going to rinse off my water brush now. And I'm going to try and get rid of anything that's left that's kind of too white here around the edges. Now I'm going to take my white gel pen and I'm going to add a little bit of detail along the sides of some of these pieces that look like they're mountaintops. And that is going to add just a little bit of light and shadow, if you will. And then right along here, and you see on the, what I would tell you is when you're doing a technique like this, if you add another color while something is wet, you get a blended effect. That's what I was doing with the water. I put down the soft sky and then the pool party, and I did it right away, right afterwards. And then I put the Marina Mist in and right away, and then blended it. Because I wanted the water to have multiple colors in it, and you get more of a blended look. Now, when you dry and then add color, you're adding a layer. So the difference is while it's wet, when you add more color, you get more of a blended look. If you want more of a layered look, then you have to let something dry and then put something over the top of it so that it doesn't necessarily blend in. And since we did our mountains first, that part's nice and dry. So that's why I can use a little bit of my gel pen here and get some highlights on the edges of some of these mountains. There we go. All right, and it just adds a little bit of depth to your card. Now, I have mounted, maybe I didn't, let's see. I didn't. I have a stamp here that is this one, Every Little Kindness Makes the World Brighter. And I thought that turned out so well in the other card, although I didn't do a very good job of stamping it. I want to get my stamp off here and put it on a block, you know, except for maybe this gel pen could be used to give a few highlights also to these trees. I like that. Okay, so now I'll cover up my gel pen here and cover up my Tranquil Tide. push my inks out of the way here. And I think I'm done with all of the stamping. So I can get rid of everything here now except my sentiment. And I'm going to re-ink this in Early Espresso. And I'm going to put this sort of to this side, but way at the top. Friends make good times better. And I'm going to put that down right up here towards the top. And I think that fills in our card very nicely. And actually, this paper takes the ink pretty well, and it's already reasonably dry. I'll continue to cover up my inks and move them out of the way. And move my stamps out of the way. And now I'm going to work on straightening out this piece of card so that it isn't so warped because of the water. And I'm just going to be using my bone folder to do that. And that's pretty good. Okay, so one of the things that I thought about doing now that I've used my bone folder on this, and it's pretty flat, but it's still got some warp to it, is I have a little bit of this 3M foam tape here, and it'll raise it just a little bit on the back. I believe I can just tear that off. And what I'm going to do is put down several strips of this on the back and see if I can't, by using this, help this stay a little bit flatter on the card. So I'm going to add one more piece right along the edge here and snip that off. And then remove my backing here. The only other thing I could do on the back of this is maybe add a similar sized piece of adhesive fun foam, which could in fact hold this down nice and firmly, but I think this will work because we've got it fairly straightened now. And there we go. Yeah, that's holding it down pretty well. All right, now let's see, take my card base back here, and we have the card base where we've done the stamping. And I'm going to straighten that piece out there also with my bone folder and use a little bit of the white gel pen here as well. I think that also adds to the look of making this look a little bit more like it might have actually been watercolored. Okay, there we go. All right, now I'm going to add this piece, and I'm just going to add snail to this. Okay. And then add this to my card front. Now this one takes a little bit of time, mostly because of the coloring, because other than that, it really is a pretty simple card. And isn't that pretty? Now, This one was extremely simple and the very first one that I tried to make. And this one adds a few extra elements and kind of completes the front of the card a little bit better. And you'll have to tell me which one you like better, but I kind of like filling the card a little bit better on this. And so that is the project for the day. And I hope you like it. I hope you'll give it a try. It's something very different again, and I think interesting looking. And I think this one with a happy birthday or a thinking of you, any number of things would be a perfect card for a guy. And this one I put a little bit thinner border on it. This one I wanted to see the little brown, and I like the contrast of all of the browns. I think it kind of brings it together. So there is my project for the day. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel. I do appreciate it. You can purchase this stamp set and all of the inks and papers right on my website, www.lbedinger.stampinup.net. And so that's it for me today on the project. Let's see, I wanted to talk a little bit about if you put an order in with me for $25 or more, I send a product gift or a handmade gift from me at the end of the month, plus a reusable card. And if you join my team, now's a great time to do it in the first quarter. You get $4.99. You get $125 worth of material from Stampin' Up! Plus 2 stamp sets of your choice, any ones you'd pick. Plus, you get $40 in product from me. So you get almost $200 worth of product for $99. So starting at the first of the year is a really good opportunity. And always at the bottom of the videos, down here at the bottom, is my telephone number and my contact information. And give me a call if you want to know about this. And if you don't have a catalog, a Stampin' Up! Catalog, be happy to send you one. Just contact me on my website or give me a call, and I'd be happy to send them to you. So thanks again for watching. That's it for me. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. And we'll see you next time with more cards and more projects. Bye.